Who are the top 5 NBA rookies and sophomores that you, the listener, should be paying attention to? And is AJ Dybantsa a top 2 prospect in the 2026 NBA draft? All that and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NBA Draft with no ceilings. Your daily podcast on the future stars of the NBA. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm your host, Nathan Grubel, scout and evaluator over the last 15 years and current No Ceilings contributor. Solo show today. Maxwell's not able to make this one, but I still have a great episode on tap. So today, I'm Ryan Solo covering the top 5 NBA rookies and sophomores you, the listener, should be paying attention to and what we can take away for scouting the 2026 NBA draft class. Then I'm going to wrap up the show by covering a prospect I recently saw live at the Jimmy V Classic and AJ Dybantsa of BYU and why he's trending towards top 2 status in the 2026 class. So let's go ahead and get started, cover the top 5 NBA rookies first. In case you don't follow a lot of my written work over on NoCeilingsNBA.com, I've been spending the last few weeks really ranking and diving into the NBA's rookie and sophomore classes. I ranked the NBA's rookie class last week, went through the top 10 guys, some honorable mentions, and then some other rookies to watch as we go throughout the season. If you haven't read that, please go make sure to check that out, NoCeilingsNBA.com. But my top 5 NBA rookies, I can't start out with anyone else other than Cooper Flagg of the Dallas Mavericks, 6'9" forward. Got off to a bit of a rough start offensively, as we all know, for the season when the Dallas Mavericks really has turned it around from an offensive perspective as we've gotten later in the year, as the Dallas Mavericks have played more guards alongside of him. He's not the quote-unquote point guard anymore for the Dallas Mavericks. Now we have Ryan Nembhard building some great chemistry with Cooper Flagg. Obviously, D'Angelo Russell helped a little bit in that lineup, but really inserting guys like Brandon Williams and then most notably of recent, Ryan Nembhard has taken a lot of that offensive creative burden off of his shoulders, and it's really turned him into more of a play finisher and secondary creator. You can run him off certain screen actions, secondary actions. He's catching. He's either going straight to the basket. He's pulling up in the mid-range. He's making that next read. Just simplifying a lot of the decisions on his plate have really helped him become more efficient inside the arc offensively. Now, obviously, he's still working on that jump shot, that outside shot. He's shooting under 30% from three-point range on the season. Has actually been a better shooter off the dribble than off the catch on the year per Synergy Sports, but I'm going to be monitoring his three-point shot, obviously, as we move forward over the course of the season. Definitely has a lot of room to get better in that regard. But in terms of his quick decision-making, his passing, his natural instincts, his ability to get to the rim, finish through contact, his competitive nature, and then, of course, defensively, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention any of his impact on the defensive end of the floor. He has been an all-star level defender for the Dallas Mavericks this season. Versatile, not quite the guy who you would want locking up certain star individuals just yet, particularly in the backcourt on the defensive end, but an incredible team defender, can play passing lanes, generate steals, deflections, block shots, and help protect the rim from the weak side. Someone who is one of the best connective pieces that we have in the NBA. And obviously we've seen some nights already where he's gone at some of the best players and has matched them basket for basket, shot for shot, assist for assist, and has really stood out as one of the most complete players that we have in this rookie class. It's because he's taken that next step offensively to where I actually do have Cooper Flagg at #1 right now as it stands today. However, the #2 player in my most updated rookie rankings, he's been fluctuating between that #1 and #2 spot. May not be #2 for much longer, is Con Knipple with the Charlotte Hornets. This guy has been on an absolute tear. Last time I pulled the stats, he was 46% from the field, 41 from three, and 90 from the free throw line. His current averages today are about on par with those marks. And it's really, when I evaluated Con Knippel for the 2025 NBA draft, I had him at number 3 on my board, primarily because even if he wasn't going to reach some quote unquote star apex like a VJ Edgecombe or an Ace Bailey, some of these other prospects that scouts and evaluators had ranked over Con, I just had so much confidence in that he was going to be the type of player that could fit in any lineup construct. He was going to provide you incredible shooting off the catch, off the dribble. He can make plays out of the pick and roll, create from a secondary standpoint, can operate in different ways in terms of screening, guard-to-guard screen actions, which is something that the Charlotte Hornets have taken very much advantage of. He's been one of the best pick-and-roll man scorers by percentage in the NBA. Per Synergy Sports, he's ranked in about the 95th, 96th percentile on that particular play type, him being able to slip screens. Opponents don't necessarily know which way he's going, whether he's going to pop back out, take that open three, whether he's going to roll into the short roll and operate at that free throw line extended area. Can he pull up for that mid-range shot? Can he catch somebody off guard, use some of his shot fakes, his footwork, get all the way to the basket? The way that he's able to just catch guys off guard because he's 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of the defense. He's an ultimate student of the game. He's talked about that at length. Anyone who's interviewed and talked to Con Knippel or listened to him specifically discuss what's important to him about the game of basketball. It's being prepared, it's studying, it's knowing the ins and outs of different offensive schemes, defensive coverages. This guy is showing all of that mastercraft on the court in terms of his ability to process and make decisions at a high level. Everything is quick. Every single thing that he does is quick on offense and defense. He may not be the fleetest of foot, but he's beating guys to spots because he anticipates well. He plays at his own pace. He uses great pump fakes, shot fakes, footwork. He's got so much in his bag that I don't think NBA teams were prepared to deal with from day one. So much so that you're hearing a lot of recent conversation about Con Knippel being the face of the Hornets franchise, a franchise that has drafted LaMelo Ball, a franchise that has drafted Brandon Miller, 2 guys who are looked at as being the superiors to Con Knippel on the offensive end of the floor. I mean, Con's been putting up consistent games of 20 plus on ridiculous shooting splits, holding his own defensively, and really being a driver towards this Hornets team being one of the most fun to watch, in my opinion, in the NBA. No, they're not winning as many games as some other teams out there. No, they're not necessarily making some noise right now to crash the Eastern Conference playoff race, but it is a fun, enjoyable brand of basketball that's built on fundamentals. It's built on understanding, positioning, awareness, team communication, all of the great things that you would want to see from a professional basketball team. That's a lot of what Con Knippel brings to the table. It's setting the culture and leading this franchise in a new direction. Couldn't be happier with Con Knippel's game. At 3 on my NBA rookie rankings, I have Cedric Howard for the Memphis Grizzlies, who's been going through a little bit of a shooting slump lately, but nevertheless, even though his three-point shot hasn't been falling at great lengths, really supported by that hot stretch he was on to start the season, his two-way impact is still undeniable. He's an awesome play finisher. He's someone who has a little bit of underrated passing potential that he's been tapping into as a secondary, tertiary playmaker. But his defensive impact, his ability to rebound the basketball, initiate the break, lock down different positions, rotate, cover a lot of ground because of his 7'2" wingspan, his awesome athleticism, his strength, his big frame coming in as a rookie to the NBA. He has been one of the most fun defensive wings that I've been able to evaluate this season in the NBA. And because of his two-way impact as an at-rim finisher, as a mid-range scorer, and then the three-point shot, like I said, has been a little come and go of late, but I would expect him to right that ship. And the results can speak for themselves, both on his priors, his college shooting at Washington State, and further back, even going back to his high school days as a free throw shooter. He's pretty much been a consistent 80% free throw shooter from the line. That's carried over to the NBA. He's aggressive. He draws contact. He plays through contact. Cedric Howard is someone who I don't necessarily know if I see that Kawhi Leonard type of upside that a lot of people want to talk about and discuss with his game, but just in terms of being a consistent two-way impact presence on the wing with great size, with great length. I mean, these are the types of players that NBA franchises are looking for in the NBA draft, in free agency. Can we trade for one of these guys? The Memphis Grizzlies have another one in Cedric Howard. They struck gold with Jalen Wills last year, who's righted the ship a bit as a shooter in his own right. Now they have Cedric Howard opposite him on the wing. They have two great building blocks around both John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. in the short term, with Zach Edey being a great presence in the long term. And number 4, I have VJ Edgecombe of the Philadelphia 76ers. Got off to an electric start for the 76ers near the beginning of the year. Had a little bit of offensive fluctuation in his game, like I talked about on another podcast with Chuck of Chucking Darts on Twitter. Has definitely had to find himself a little bit on the offensive end of the floor as he's taken on some backup point guard responsibilities. They've given the ball to him more to initiate offense, run some pick and roll actions. VJ is at his best when he doesn't have as much on his plate right now, and he has straight lines to the basket. He can cut, he can finish in transition, and then the spot up 3-point shot has actually been there for him this season to a large extent. He's regressed as an off the dribble shooter, particularly even inside the mid range and in the painted area, but he knows how to create those shots for himself. I imagine that as he gets more reps, some more exposure, he'll get better at making those types of shots. Like I said, the 3-point shot has really been there for him this season, more than I initially expected in his rookie year. And then as a transition athlete, as a defender who can just make those clutch plays, those plays that other guys that don't have his athletic talents at 6'4", 6'5", with his ability, his quickness, he can just do things that a lot of other players can't do. And that's why the Philadelphia 76ers wanted to invest in him with that 3rd overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. They believe in his long runway and his upside. And you see it a lot in the tape, especially in recent games for the 76ers. Edgecombe's been a defining presence late in the game when they've needed that extra spark, that extra burst of athleticism, when some of these other guys who aren't as quick, aren't as athletic, aren't as conditioned as someone like VJ, they need someone to step up in those moments, and VJ's been doing that. So I have him at number 4. And then at number 5, I put Jeremiah Fears of the New Orleans Pelicans here in my rankings, more so because I wanted to reward Fears for his consistent point guard play from start of the season up until now. Although Derek Queen, I would say, is tied for 5th. I had him at 6th. He's right there in terms of the race. If this was more of a power ranking and not necessarily a quarter poll, which was what the ranking was intended to be up to this point in the season, Derek Queen, if it was a power ranking, could be as high as like 3 on this list. He has been absolutely phenomenal for the Pelicans, a point center, someone who can handle the ball, has a lot of wiggle, a lot of different ball handling moves, counter moves in his bag. At the center position, he's just an absolute mismatch and able to take other big guys off the dribble, finish around the basket. The jump shot hasn't necessarily been there for him, but again, his processing, his passing ability, the triple-double threat on a night-to-night basis, quick hands, great reflexes and instincts on defense that help mitigate some of the direct at-rim concerns. He's not necessarily the biggest guy. He's not the tallest guy. He's not the player who's going to be jumping out of the gym to block shots, but he's got great hands. He's got great instincts, and he's just a player who understands how to play the game at a high level. And the ball handling ability, in my opinion, has been a really big driver of success for Queen. It allows him to get the different spots on the floor that other big men generally can't. And just the way that he's able to operate, control the tempo, control the pace of the game. Him and Fears are starting to build a lot of great chemistry. And those two, as I've written about in another piece for NoCeilingsNBA.com, you go check that out. They are foundational pieces for this New Orleans Pelicans franchise. And I'm very excited to see where this franchise goes. Forget about the trade. Forget about the process behind all of that. Evaluating the players of Fears and Queen for the Pelicans, it's been a very fun experience for me as someone who enjoys watching those two guys play at length. So when we come back to the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast, I'll be ranking the NBA's top 5 sophomores. Stay tuned. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up, and you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. Right now on FanDuel, it's a great time to lock in some odds on Super Bowl contenders. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are currently 8-1 to win the Super Bowl on FanDuel, which looks especially enticing after Josh Allen and James Cook took care of business against division rival New England Patriots on Sunday afternoon in the NFC. The San Francisco 49ers, they've quietly taken care of business. Brock Purdy's playing incredible football at quarterback. The defense still has difference makers under Bob Saleh. They're currently priced at 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. That's great value right there. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live and futures bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you for making the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast your first listen of the day. All right, time for my top 5 NBA sophomores. Now, this column has not gone up yet on NoCeilingsNBA.com, although it will be up by the time you're actually listening to this podcast. So please make sure, go ahead, check that out. My top 5 NBA sophomores. This one was a little tricky because the 2024 NBA draft class has gotten a lot of flack, or at least it got a lot of flack because there wasn't that clear consensus number one player. There was no Victor Wembanyama in the class. There was no Cooper Flagg in the class. But this class has so much depth in terms of rotational contributors and guys who do still have legitimate ceilings in their own right, to where you just try and make a list of who might be the top 5, the top 10 sophomores in this class. Go past that to some honorable mentions, some other guys to watch. I mean, I'm writing down like 15, 20, 25 names on the list. That's how deep this class has been up to this point. Now, naturally, with every draft class, we generally see about 12 to 15 guys ultimately hang on to top rotational spots. I would categorize that as about playing 20 plus minutes a game and really playing high leverage impact minutes, whether it's as a starter, one of the first guys off the bench. Generally, draft classes aren't producing 20, 25, 30 guys who stick around longer than 4 or 5 years in the league. So we already have a great depth, a great player pool to be working with in this class. And as it whittles down, we'll see who's able to stick around the longest, sign multiple contracts, and impact winning at the highest level for some teams looking to compete for an NBA championship. But number one, speaking of contending for an NBA championship, Stephon Castle, the San Antonio Spurs, he's maybe not in contention right now with the Spurs for an NBA championship, but the NBA Cup Finals, I mean, this guy helped, along with Victor Wembanyama, lead the Spurs past the Oklahoma City Thunder in the NBA Cup semifinals over the weekend. What a game that was. And Stephon Castle got off to a little bit of a rough start, had some turnover issues, which have been a big problem for him all year. His turnover rate currently sits at over 20 on the season. That's a big no-no for a guard, but his aggressiveness in terms of staying with the play, not letting one possession dictate what he's going to do on the next possession, his demeanor, his defensive impact, the way that he can just wall guys off as a defender. It's funny, before the draft, Stephon Castle wasn't made out to be this awesome defensive prospect, in large part because his steal and block rates weren't necessarily as high as some of the other guys who we can look back through an NBA history, evaluate them as prospects, and see what they've done in the NBA. They've generally created a lot more turnovers, created a lot more deflections than a guy like Stephon Castle has. But what's unique about Castle is his 6'6" frame. He was so strong coming into the NBA. He's only continued to get stronger. He just walls guys off with ease. He doesn't let opposing players get to their spots. He beats them there. He takes contact. He plays through his chest. He plays with his feet and his body, not his hands. He doesn't make as many mistakes defensively from a foul perspective because of that. And just the way that he guarded SGA and some of the Thunder's other perimeter players down the stretch in that game was so impressive. He's still awesome at knifing through defenses, finishing at the basket, shoots with a high percentage despite not being able to make threes at the highest level quite yet, still under 30% from three-point range on the season. Did knock down a few in that game in particular. But the thing with Castle and why I have him rated so highly is this dude is just a winner. The plays that he makes on both ends of the floor, you've seen it for the Spurs across multiple seasons now. You saw it at UConn, a championship team in college. This dude just cares about winning at the highest level. You hear it in the way he communicates with players during the game. You hear his call outs. You hear him speak in interviews after the game. He is just so connected to what it takes to win, that unselfishness, that doing the right thing for the next person in order to see the benefit of the team, not necessarily just the individual. And yes, he can get caught, attacking certain matchups and going at certain possessions, trying to bully his way through defenders and maybe drive into 2 or 3 extra guys that he shouldn't be driving into. You'll see some young mistakes like that from a player like him, which has definitely contributed to the turnover rates. But just what Stephon Castle has done, who he is as a player, what he stands for, I have him as the top player in this sophomore class right now, although there's another guy nipping right on his heels in Alex Sarr of the Washington Wizards. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about Alex Sarr in particular, the 7-footer from France, who went number 2 overall in that 2024 NBA draft, just behind Zachary Risacher. Don't hear a lot of conversation about Sarr at all, and yet he's doing things in the NBA. If you look up his advanced metrics in particular, in terms of his rebounding rate, his assist rate, his block rate, his usage rate, and then match all of those metrics up while throwing in his shooting volume and his efficiency from 3-point range, where he's at about 35% so far on the season. The only other guy doing that in the NBA, it's not even Evan Mobley, it's not even Chet Holmgren, it's Victor Wembanyama. And I'm not saying that Alex Sarr is as good of a player as Victor Wembanyama, but that's the type of special talent that he's been with Washington. He's gotten much better in terms of handling physicality, getting to his spots, posting up, working out of the mid-post, getting to that mid-range jump shot. He's shooting an incredible percentage in terms of in the paint on those types of pull-up jump shots. The three-point efficiency's been there for him. But the thing that's impressed me so much about Sarr on this particular Washington Wizards team, the Wizards have arguably the worst guard room in the NBA from a playmaking standpoint. Like CJ McCollum's done a pretty good job righting the ship in that regard and really tried to calm some things down for that offense. But we don't know how much longer he's going to be on the team. Trey Johnson is still green as a rookie. We don't necessarily know how much he can handle in terms of playmaking as a pure point guard. Bub Carrington has struggled to pull the different levers at times for this team between scoring and playmaking. So on top of not necessarily having a great supporting cast at the guard spot to get Sarr the ball in some different spots for him to be most effective as a play finisher, he doesn't have another big who's playing alongside of him or behind him either to really soak up some minutes, to bail him out if he gets in foul trouble, has to handle things a little bit differently. But the fact that Sarr has done such a great job in weathering that storm and still evolving and developing as a player in his second year, has been a reliable defender for this Wizards team. Just seeing what he's been able to do has been absolutely awesome. I've loved watching him with the Washington Wizards. And number 3, I have Reed Sheppard for the Houston Rockets. Reed Sheppard's been an awesome guard player for the Rockets. Their plus-minus numbers are absolutely through the roof when he's on the floor. The lineup construction of him, Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Kevin Durant, and Alperen Sengun's been kicking a ton of butt for the Houston Rockets this year in the Western Conference. Really have loved what I've seen from Reed. He's just been as dynamic of a shooter as we projected him coming out of Kentucky. Has done an incredible job of lighting it up, playing to his role, finding secondary opportunities. When he gets inside the lane, he's been able to make those tough mid-range shots that defenses try to bait him into. He's done a much better job at playing with pace, not turning the ball over, making shots when he's needed, and the Rockets have been able to win his minutes defensively. He's been impressive. Number 4, I have AJ Mitchell of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who's been a revelation for the Thunder off the bench, is in contention for the NBA's 6th Man of the Year award. Boy, what else can we say about this Thunder organization, right? I mean, Sam Presti and company just continue to find diamonds in the rough. They mine talent out of the later portions of these drafts, both in the second round on undrafted two-way contracts. These guys are incredible scouts at identifying what not necessarily just what's going to work in the NBA, but what in particular works for this organization. And AJ Mitchell has a lot of the same characteristics you're finding from everyone else in the guard room. He can make plays for others. He gets into the lane at will. He can hit the open spot up threes, especially from the corner. And then defensively, you can't attack him in the traditional sense. He's a big, bulky guard. You can't necessarily go at him as well one-on-one, even if he's involved in a mismatch situation where somebody's trying to post him up. He holds his own. He doesn't necessarily get bumped off that spot. He still makes a shot really tough for that opposing player who's trying to take advantage of that mismatch. So you can't necessarily hunt AJ Mitchell. And then on the offensive end of the floor, he can go hunting after you. He can pick you apart. He's a 3-level scorer, very smart decision maker, caretaker of the basketball. AJ Mitchell has been a revelation for this Thunder team off the bench, very much, like I said, in contention for that 6th Man of the Year award. I'm still very interested to see where his career goes much after this season, but really in the long term for the Thunder, how they manage both paying him and extending him eventually when it comes down to that long term. Some of the other guards they have on the team, they can't pay everybody, so it'll be really interesting to see who the Thunder prioritize in keeping long term within that franchise. And then at number 5, I have Kel'el Ware of the Miami Heat, 7-footer, dominant athletic center, someone who can run, jump with the best of them at the position, excellent lob threat, play finisher, has shown really good shooting touch from the outside, over 40% from 3 on spot up threes. Not necessarily the highest of volume as a shooter, but really good volume for a big man, certainly. And then he's gotten better defensively, not just in terms of blocking shots around the basket, but playing with a bit more discipline, playing a little bit more engaged and locked in, especially away from the basketball, having to rotate over and help in certain coverages. Kel'el Ware, to my eye, has actually been really impressive for the Miami Heat. He continues to get better and better and better, and that's why I have him at the 5th spot in my NBA sophomore rankings. But when we come back to the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast, I'm going to discuss why AJ Dybantsa has firmly moved into top 2 discussion in the 2026 NBA draft class. Stay tuned. When SKIMS announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about SKIMS Comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands that roll, and a whole lot of settling. SKIMS Men's changes that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why everyone's been talking. But once I tried SKIMS Men's underwear, I got the hype immediately. They're designed to feel good, fit right, and actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting, just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Trust me, I can say with confidence after having worn several top brand name boxer briefs, I mean, I can't go back. I've loved the SKIMS that I've been able to actually try on and wear throughout the day. They truly are the most comfortable underwear that I've ever owned. You can shop SKIMS Men's now at skims.com. And when you place that order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop-down to let them know we sent you. Plus, the SKIMS Holiday Shop is open, so if you're looking for that perfect gift this season, SKIMS has you covered. The holidays always show up faster than we expect, and if you're still putting together gifts, last-minute decor, getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. It's so easy to shop by style. Helps you pick pieces that actually fit your home instead of guessing. Plus, the Wayfair items you order will instantly refresh your space without a big project. And Wayfair is perfect for gifting, too. They have guides, tons of options, and something for everyone on every budget. No massive delivery fees and no stress. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to different stores. Get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, welcome back to the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast. Going to wrap up the show very quickly by discussing AJ Dybantsa, 6'9", big wing from BYU. Got to see him up close and personal at the Jimmy V Classic at Madison Square Garden last week. My big board has been pretty challenging to rank near the top, as I'm sure as it has for everyone, because you have 3 prospects in the 2026 NBA draft who are very much deserving of number 1 overall consideration. I've had this entire stretch so far. Number 1, I've had Cam Boozer, 6'9" power forward at Duke. I've had Darren Peterson, 6'5" guard at Kansas. And then I've had AJ Dybantsa at number 3, 6'9" big wing. I got to be honest, though, after seeing AJ Dybantsa in person in New York, just the way that he was able to take over that game for BYU against Clemson, how he became that playmaking hub, that star scorer in the second half, the guy who, when this team needed someone to lean on, AJ was that guy. And it wasn't just, again, his scoring. It was his ability to make reads from the middle of the floor, the passes he delivered, the touch on those passes. And then his defensive aggression, his intensity was very much ramped up in this game compared to some other times that I've seen him throughout this season. We've gotten some great insight and intel from other scouts that, AJ is very much developing as a defender. He knows it's something that he needs to work on. And you can just tell by watching him in pregame and some of the workouts he's going through and some of the things he's prioritizing, this guy is committed to being the best version of himself on both ends of the floor. And now we've seen multiple times BYU take on Power 5 opponents and AJ Dybantsa having incredible second halves and really help his team get over the hump in some tough games. And I know Rob Wright hit that last second shot to ultimately win the game at the buzzer for BYU against Clemson, but that team would not be in the position that it is right now without AJ Dybantsa. And why I'm very much considering moving AJ ahead of Darren at that number 2 spot overall on my board. I know it may be a little bit unfair, but I don't know if we're going to see those types of moments from Darren Peterson this year at Kansas. He's been battling that hamstring injury. There's potential conversation of, is he going to be sitting out for the rest of the year? Are they going to shut him down? I just haven't seen, even in Darren's best moments, some of the games in high school where he was electric as a scorer, dropping 40, 50, 60-point games at the high school level, and some of the games where he's already had scoring outbursts here in college at Kansas in short order. I haven't seen him take over a game in the same way that I've now seen AJ Dybantsa take over multiple games at the college level. And you factor in his size, his length, his athleticism, he's positioned to play that big wing spot that every single NBA team covets. If Darren Peterson isn't as dynamic of a passer, as much of a centralized pick and roll type of playmaker that we would expect from him, if he's more of a shooting prospect or a movement shooter, someone who you're creating more looks for him, or you're hoping that he's able to just create something out of nothing in isolation, versus someone in AJ Dybantsa who has the size, the length, the strength, the mismatch potential to actually put a team on his back and operate from the middle of the floor, play with physicality, get to the free throw line at will. If you're going between both of those guys, AJ Dybantsa's game might be better served for the NBA in terms of what teams are looking for and what they can't as easily acquire, both on the free agent market, in a particular trade. I'm not saying it's easy to find someone like a Darren Peterson. Again, this is a special prospect. We're talking about 3 guys at the top who could be number 1 overall picks in any given draft. But just what I've seen from AJ Dybantsa in particular, he has impressed me arguably the most of any of the guys we're talking about in that top 5 range. I know I was in on Caleb Wilson having a number 4 overall on my board before the year started, but I haven't seen a guy have as impressive of performances from start to finish and actually do everything in his power to will teams to victories at that top spot, in contention for that top spot outside of Cam Boozer, like I've seen from AJ Dybantsa. So just the two-way impact, how he can impact games, how he's continuing to get better, the runway he has in terms of development. I'm buying in on AJ Dybantsa. Like I said, I'm very close to moving him number 2 overall on my board. By the time we get to January, where I'm doing a massive refresh on my NBA draft rankings, he might very well be in that spot. So that's currently where I'm at now. Just had to throw that in for discussion. Hopefully, we're going to continue to get a lot more conversation, feedback on the 2026 NBA draft and where these top guys are ultimately ranking. But that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On NBA Draft with No Ceilings podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow at No Ceilings NBA on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at DraftDeeper. Make sure you're locking in for all of our content and latest episodes. Thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week.